Hello again, everybody. Zach Attack is here with my WWE Raw review for tonight, Monday, February 4th, 2013. My thoughts on tonight's Raw, way better than last week. Kind of an improvement than last week. A little bit more action this week. Not a lot of shitty segments. Great main event tonight. Probably could be an early runner for one of the best matches on Raw this year, besides Cena and Ziggler's matches on Raw in the last couple weeks. Surprised there was no Ziggler tonight. And this was being Atlanta-in-law, no Rock tonight as well. Rock was too focused on being in New Orleans, probably pulling it up for Super Bowl. Rock will probably be on next week. Of course, it'll be the last Raw before Elimination Chamber, where he will defend the WWE Championship against CM Punk. Speaking of him, CM Punk wasn't like The Rock. He did show up to Raw tonight, and he kicked off Raw tonight. Of course, making the announcer Justin Roberts called him the People's Champion. I've been hearing he's been doing it at house shows. And I was wondering if he was going to do that on Raw tonight, and he did. So anyway, Punk came out, and I said it about a couple weeks ago on my Raw review that I was kind of sick of Punk being the champion and all. I'm a big Punk guy. I've been prepping Punk and being a Punk mark, as you would call me, throughout the last 2 years of making Raw reviews since I been making these videos, especially my Money in the Bank review, my very first pay-per-view review back in 2011, when Punk did win the WWE Championship against Cena in Chicago. And I think him losing to The Rock, screw job or not, I think it's made him more angry. It made him want to be worth something again. And he delivered once again a decent promo, chastising everybody in the crowd, making fun of him big time, calling one guy 4 eyes. Not caring what anyone thinks. And he says that of course, we all know what happened last week with Paul Heyman almost getting fired after finding out that, yes, after months and months of me speculating in my reviews as well about him being involved with the Shield and Brad Maddox, that he was exposed for being a liar that he was. And Punk said he didn't know about Paul Heyman's plans, or so he says. He said he didn't know Paul Heyman was behind the Shield. I think I kind of explained that too. I think I was kind of debating that as well, as maybe Paul Heyman's doing this without Punk knowing it. That was my dad and I were both thinking. We were both almost kind of right that Punk did not know about Paul Heyman. That's what he said. And of course, we all know what happened. Vince McMahon getting F5 of Brock Lesnar last week. No matter what he thinks about the whole situation, he does think that McMahon deserved the F5. It was karma for screwing him out of the title last week at Royal Rumble. And blah, 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 blah. And indeed, as Punk was saying that Rock was stealing his title, Punk still counts. He's still counting Wayne Days as champion. He's no longer champion. That was the only bad thing with the promo. He kept counting his championship Wayne Days, even though he's not champion anymore. Anyway, Booker T came out during that segment and botched his sentences. Where I was trying to say that I'm trying to not botch either. As the supervising manager, Vicky Guerrero, has made Booker T come out to say that it will be a Raw active tonight, WWE active voting between 3 men who have faced Punk before at the last 3 WrestleManias, and a WrestleMania rematch will take place. Either Orton, Randy Orton, Rey Mysterio, who came back last week at the Rumble, or Chris Jericho, who also came back at the Rumble. It's been like a week of comebacks. I'll explain more of that in a moment. But WWE Active crashed, had their own little power outage like at Super Bowl last night. And Chris Jericho is eventually the winner of the voting. And we would see how that match would turn out between Punk and Jericho, being our main event of the evening. The other 2 men, Mysterio and Orton, would be in action later on tonight in other matches. So we'll see what happens in all 3 of the matches. Punk's match against Jericho, Orton's match, and Mysterio's match as well, later on in the evening. Now, in our first match of the evening, Atlanta is, of course, the home of a certain man, Goldberg. Well, he wasn't there, but we had the new Goldberg, of course, right back, taking on Antonio Cesaro. Now, if you watch my Royal Rumble review, when I was saying, and I said this on my attack line as well last Monday before last week's Raw, that I thought that when John Cena eliminated Ryback, it was Cena's way of saying, hey, Ryback, your push is over. Well, Ryback's push is over. Now Ryback's probably going to challenge for the U.S. title after beating the hell out of Antonio Cesaro tonight in an title match. I think I kind of predicted that. I think they had a little altercation about a month ago. Now I hinted it back then about Cesaro taking on Ryback for the title one day, and it could be that. Apparently, Miz's feud with Cesaro is over, despite Miz interfering in Cesaro's match last week as the referee, doing Raw Active, Raw Roulette actually. But now Cesaro may be feuding against Ryback. Cesaro tried to look good against Ryback despite many efforts to escape. Ryback fed on the prey he was given, of course, being Cesaro. And Cesaro didn't get, despite delaying the inevitable, he did get the meat hook clothesline, and of course the shell shock and a 1-2-3 victory for Ryback on the Rampage, being a crap out of Cesaro. But he may not be challenging Cesaro after all for the title, U.S. title, because he has bigger fish to fry, as we would see later on in the evening in our last segment. So there you go. Ryback getting his hands on Cesaro, being an okay opener, despite being a little bit of a squash on, despite Cesaro fighting somewhat. Of course, we had a segment involving John Cena, who was going to vow to call out the Shield for revenge for what happened to him last week. And of course, Ryback and Sheamus tried to help him last week too, and they all got their asses beat. Cena deserved that beating. Of course, if you saw my review last week, my Rumble review last week, that I was bitching about Cena winning the Rumble, doesn't deserve it. It was injustice. Cena won, so that's why he deserved that ass beating last week. But we would see later on what would Cena do when he called out the Shield. Now on to our next match. Santino Marella taking on the returning Jack Swagger. Been mentioning it's like a week of returns. The last couple days, the last week has been like return heaven. Like Royal Rumble we saw Sin Cara return, Mysterio return, Jericho return. Last Monday, Brock Lesnar return, and last Friday on SmackDown, Jack Swagger return, and whole new Jack Swagger trying to impress the general manager of SmackDown, Booker T, to try to get in the Elimination Chamber match. Yes, there will be an Elimination Chamber match to determine the number one contender for the World Heavyweight Championship at WrestleMania. Swagger looked decently in a squash match against Santino, basically beat the crap out of Santino with angry intensity. He beat him pretty quickly, but of course the Patriot Act lock, the ankle lock, renamed by Swagger, as of course Santino tapped to the Patriot Act after the Swagger splash, or whatever he wants to call it, slingshot palm move off the middle rope. Anyway, Swagger looked very good in that match. First match I've won in a while. Swagger's no longer he's more cocky, more confident than ever, but not braggadocious. He just goes in there, kicks ass, and leaves. That's what he needs to do to impress Booker T to be in that Elimination Chamber. And Booker T would name the first 3 participants in the SmackDown Elimination Chamber match throughout the evening, which I'll tell during the matches of who's in it. So, Alberto Del Rio kicked off the next match after Swagger handily beating the hell out of Santino, as Alberto Del Rio took on Cody Rhodes. I like Cody Rhodes' new t-shirt. He's at least got a sense of humor about people making fun of his mustache. At least he's got a sense of humor with his new mustache t-shirt. At least he's got a sense of humor about it. At least he's not pissed about it. At least he's like John Cena. You know, John Cena, everyone calls him a Fruity Pebble. Look what happened. Cena's on the box of Fruity Pebbles again. And Cody Rhodes is like, you're making fun of my mustache? I'm making a t-shirt. So I got a sense of humor. And I can make money out of it too. Like Cena's making a amount of money because of the fact that people call him Fruity Pebble. Well, I'm Fruity Pebble box. Anyway, despite the mustache, Alberto Del Rio, another squashing matchup. Cody looked okay in this matchup against the world champion. He had some great moves, great offense. He delivered a beautiful disaster kick, but in the end, Cody got kicked in the face. And, of course, got the cross arm breaker by Alberto after making it the other bit. He even got it counted once, but the second time he got the cross arm breaker, he got it and made Cody Rhodes tap out. Of course, Alberto Del Rio still angry at the Big Show for his beatdown of Ricardo Rodriguez on Raw last week and also on SmackDown. And Alberto wanted Big Show then and there. He wanted more revenge, but Big Show was at a hotel room. He's saying he doesn't want to beat up Alberto because he wants the world title rematch. He knows if he beats up Alberto, he's not going to get what he wants. He may beat up Alberto, but it ain't going to give him satisfaction until he beats him up, not outside the ring, not doing a match. or after a match, but he beats him up in a Raw title match. So we saw segments throughout the evening about Big Show waiting in his hotel room for a contract signed by Roberto Del Rio for a Raw title match. Well, after numerous segments, including a food service segment, well, Big Show's big and all, the contract finally came, signed by Alberto. A guy bought it. It was, of course, one of the last segments of the evening. Big Show signed the contract, but little did he know, Alberto, despite being Roman Big Show, not to find him, Alberto did come to the hotel room and beat the crap out of Big Show in a beatdown in a hotel lobby, hotel, motel, Holiday Inn. How to do that. Anyway, Alberto beat the crap out of Big Show for a while until Big Show fought back with some great offense in the backstage bar until, of course, Alberto nailed Big Show with the fire extinguisher, spraying him with it, and then nailing him with the fire extinguisher to knock the big man down for the count. And Alberto left with Big Show laying down after the beatdown given by Alberto. So Alberto Big Show 2 has been declared for the Royal Elimination Chamber. So we have 2 matches already made, 3 matches now. CM 2 title matches from the Rumble. Alberto Big Show 2 and CM Punk Rock 2 at the Elimination Chamber for both respective titles. And the third match was, of course, the Elimination Chamber match for the number one contendership for the Raw title. And 2 men that are already in it, the first 2 guys named to be in the Elimination Chamber match, took on each other. Daniel Bryan taking on Rey Mysterio. Now, Mysterio was already named one of the participants, but Daniel Bryan was named after this match, which included another return. Pretty good matchup for these guys. These are very athletic guys, kind of high-flying guys. Very decent action from these guys. It was kind of back and forth. Mysterio had the advantage early on, but indeed Daniel Bryan, who told his tag team partner Kane and had their problems as of late since graduating from anger management 2 weeks ago, and of course stemming from the eliminations at the Rumble. And Daniel Bryan wanting revenge of Mysterio after Sin Cara and Mysterio pinned Team Hell No last week in a non-title match. Bryan was on a rampage in the second half of the match, but indeed Mysterio tried to counter it, including trying to nail a 619 near the end of the match. But Bryan countered the first attempt, but indeed Rey Mysterio did get the 619. But after that, Bryan nailed him in the no-lock. Daniel Bryan got the victory as Mysterio tapped out. And because of that victory, Daniel Bryan gets a spot in the Elimination Chamber match for the opportunity for the World Championship of WrestleMania, along with Rey Mysterio and a third participant who I'll name in a moment. But Daniel Bryan didn't have time to celebrate, as the man who he beat the crap out of numerous times for the World title last year, who had many attempts against, Mark Henry, he's been out with an injury, he's been rumored to be returning for months. But Mark Henry finally made his return tonight, beating the crap out of Daniel Bryan. But Daniel Bryan escaped. And of course, Daniel Bryan would be angry at Kane, which led towards being involved in Kane's match. So, as Daniel Bryan avoided further beatdowns from Henry after Henry threw him against the barricade, Mysterio was already weakened from the no-lock. He beat the crap out of Rey Mysterio for a while. Even Sin Cara tried to come out, but there was no match. And Sin Cara and Rey Mysterio both got World's Strongest slammed and splashed on. Mysterio did specifically. So there you go. Mark Henry's back with a statement. Maybe Mark Henry could get involved in the Elimination Chamber match as well. He wasn't officially named it, but indeed Mark Henry's back with a vengeance and beating up anybody he wants. Just like Brock Lesnar. You would see Lesnar later on in the evening as well. So he had a week of returns. Henry's back, Lesnar's back, Swagger's back, Sin Cara's back, Mysterio's back, Jericho's back. Where's Christian? Is Christian coming back next? I'll be very happy and surprised if Christian returns at Elimination Chamber pay-per-view. That'd be awesome. But anyway, like I mentioned, Daniel Bryan and Kane had their problems, and indeed, they would be wrestling back-to-back. Daniel Bryan blamed Kane for the loss against Sin Cara and Mysterio. He told Kane to stay in the back. But indeed, he chastised Kane for not helping him when he got attacked by Mark Henry despite his pleas to stay in the back. So indeed, the problems continued as Kane was ready to wrestle Sheamus. And this match was okay between these two big guys. My favorite spots in this match was they were countering each other's moves. Sheamus was trying to go for a bro kick, countered that. Kane was going for a choke slam. Kane countered. Sheamus countered that. Sheamus was going for white noise. Kane countered that. And Sheamus was trying to do the chops on Kane. Kane countered that as well. So they were all countering the big moves. And Sheamus even countered the tombstone. So both guys were trying to go for all the finishing moves, yet the other guy countered it. So it's kind of a cool little spot there with them countering their finishing moves. And indeed, Sheamus was on the advantage most of the match, but indeed Kane was on the wall, beating the crap out of Sheamus with a DDT after counting numerous moves. And Sheamus says Kane was going for a chokeslam. However, Daniel Bryan's anger led towards him distracting Kane, angry at Kane for not helping him yet again, chastising Kane. And I knew this was going to happen. Kane got distracted by Daniel Bryan and walked into a brogue kick and a 1-2-3 victory for Sheamus. Kane and Bryan's problems continue. I smell a breakup very soon. And now that Rhodes Scholars are now done, and Rhodes is now solo, and so is Damian, still friends, but mostly focusing on singles competitors. I think Sin Cara and Mysterio could have a great chance on being the new tag team champions. Although I think it should be millions of dollars, PTP. They should be next tag team champions if they're going to break up Bryan and Kane with their problems. So there you go. Kane and Daniel Bryan. One wins, one loss. Says one loses. So there you go. Now on to our next segment. Miz TV with Paul Heyman. Of course, Miz is going to ask Paul Heyman some questions about, was he involved with Brock Lesnar coming back? Was he behind Brock Lesnar attacking Vince McMahon? Where Paul Heyman was trying to clear his name, and Miz did not believe any second of it that Heyman was lying to his teeth again. He was trying to be sincere to Vince McMahon, that he wasn't involved with Brock Lesnar being up Vince. And indeed, as he and Miz, he being Heyman, all agreeing with Miz about this whole situation, Vicky Guerrero came out and interrupted both of them, saying that Heyman was telling the truth that he wasn't behind Brock Lesnar's return. She was. Vicky Guerrero, storyline-wise, she was the one that re-signed Brock Lesnar back to the WWE, made the deal with Lesnar in Vegas, but she didn't expect Heyman's man Lesnar to beat up Vince McMahon like he did. And bad acting job from Vicky. Fake crying. Oh, that was one of the worst fake cries I've ever seen in my life. I'm sorry, Vicky, but terrible acting on that fake crying segment. Even Heyman was trying to sell it too when he was hugging Vicky. And then Miz called them both War's face buffoons in hopes that when Vince recuperates, he fires them both. And as Miz was dissing both of them, here comes Brock Lesnar. I told you Lesnar would be involved. And Lesnar came out, faced Miz nose to nose. Miz shoved Lesnar. Bad move. Miz got beat the crap out of by Lesnar. Lesnar tossing Miz out the ring and doing the rest to Miz's furniture. Tossing the chairs on top of Miz, throwing the furniture on him, throwing the furniture all around. And Miz tried to fight back, but the Miz got fed a F5 for his helping. So there you go. Lesnar's on the loose. Why is he back? He hasn't said a word yet. So let's need to explain why he's back. I could say Triple H could be coming back soon. Despite my pleas about that match, it's going to suck. That could eventually happen. I did see a sign tonight. It did say Lesnar Triple H rematch. And unfortunately, that could happen. So there you go. Lesnar on the prowl, beating the crap out of Miz. Now our next match, which was Randy Orton taking on Wade Barrett. Their feud resuming. Now, Orton is the third competitor announced for the Elimination Chamber match for the WWE World title opportunity at Mania. So it'll be Orton, Mysterio, and Daniel Bryan, three of the participants named for the Elimination Chamber match for the WWE World title opportunity at Mania. I say Mark Henry, Jack Swagger, and hopefully returning Christian. That's why I predict the next three names are going to be in the chamber match. Henry, Swagger, and Christian. That's my prediction. Now, Wade Barrett. Okay matchup with Barrett. Orton was on the advantage, but indeed, Wade Barrett was on the offensive for the second half of the match, beating the crap out of Orton. I thought Wade was going to get distracted by Bo Dallas. Their feud's continuing, but Bo Dallas did not get involved. And despite numerous moves by Wade, including the winds of change, Vintage Orton. Orton indeed did the DDT. And Wade to go for an RKO. But Wade rolled to the outside. And Orton chased him back in. And indeed, I told you that Wade did do the winds of change. But indeed, as he was going for his finishing move, Wasteland, one of his finishing moves besides the Ball Hammer Elbow, RKO for Bear and a 1-2-3 victory for Randy Orton. Orton momentum for the Elimination Chamber match for the WWE World Title opportunity. I say there will be another Elimination Chamber match besides the World Title opportunity match. I kind of will say what I think about that during our last segment. Our last match of the night. Chris Jericho against Punk, the Raw Active match. In my mind, it could be a front runner besides the matches between John Cena and Ziggler on the first Raw and the Steel Cage match. During the 20th anniversary Raw, the only good thing about that Raw, I think Jericho and Punk, probably one of the best matches of Raw this year thus far early on. It resumed their feud from last year, reminding us how great the matches were in WrestleMania 28. How great the match was at Extreme Rules. And this match was very exciting. Jericho came in from the get-go, and Punk came back. It was kind of a back-and-forth matchup. Near the end of the match, it was like counter after counter, near fall after near fall. You know, Punk was going for Anaconda Vice. Jericho got out of that. Jericho got the Walls of Jericho on him after countering GTS. You know, it was kind of an exciting matchup, kind of back-and-forth action. Very exciting matchup near towards the end of the match. But indeed, Jericho kept fighting back. And as Jericho's going for the walls again, Punk got out of the hold. And he threw Jericho wing post, threw him against the wing post, short of first. Set him up for the GTS and the victory. 1-2-3 for CM Punk. Sending a big message to The Rock. Rock wasn't there tonight. Probably Rock will be there next week. It is the last Raw before the Elimination Chamber after Raw to set up the feud between Punk and, of course, The Rock in the WWE title match. Now, before we get to our last segment, of course, I mentioned this in my attack line earlier, that Bruno Sammartino was named the 4th inductee to the WWE Hall of Fame class of 2013. Bruno's been a very big holdout for the Hall of Fame for years. He's been dissing the Hall of Fame for not being a physical location, blah, 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 blah. But I think Triple H was kind of the catalyst to get Bruno Sammartino to finally get in the Hall of Fame, especially at MSG, a place he sold out many times. So indeed, the living legend, Bruno Sammartino, going in the WWE Hall of Fame this year. Now, we had our last segment. We thought it was going to be Cena calling out the Shield, but it was Brad Maddox. He's kind of annoying, but at least he's maybe turning face. Anyway, Brad Maddox, he was paid off by Paul Heyman, as we saw last week. But at the end of the video last week, Paul Heyman turned his back on Brad Maddox and let him get his ass beat by the Shield. Brad Maddox wanted revenge for the Shield beating him up. And he being the one that exposed Paul Heyman, that took that camera clip to expose Paul Heyman for what he was, a liar. I mentioned it was his Brad Maddox Experience video camera guy that shot it. Anyway, Brad called out the Shield. And the Shield came out and beat the crap out of Brad Maddox after they said that they attacked him for business. This time it's pleasure. And it's about justice. So indeed, as Maddox was getting his butt whipped, here comes finally John Cena, coming from the crowd. But he brought back up with him the man who also beat up on the Shield last week, Sheamus and Ryback. Shield tried to win, but the ring entrance was blocked off by Randy Orton, Brodus Clay, and many other superstars who have been attacked by the Shield, blocking their path, leaving them no escape from the beatdown from Cena, Sheamus, and Ryback. And that's how we ended Raw. Cena, Sheamus, and Ryback getting revenge on the Shield, sending them scouring to the back after getting their asses beat. And like I mentioned just a few seconds ago, I mentioned there is going to be 2 Elimination Chamber matches. Although there won't be one for the WWE Championship, let me make a bold prediction. I hope they do like a War Games type match, a 6-man tag, Elimination Chamber style match between Cena, Sheamus, and Ryback against the 3 members of the Shield. That's one thing they should do, like a War Games type match with 6-man tag. That's what they should do with Cena, Sheamus, Ryback, and the Shield. That'd be kind of cool segment. But knowing WWE, it wouldn't be too predictable. They would never do something cool and exciting and surprising like that. But it brought back Brock Lesnar, so you never know. So there you go. That is my WWE Raw review tonight. Definitely a little better than last week. Hopefully, with the last one before Elimination Chamber, hopefully they can do good next week as well. With that in mind, it's Act by the review from Zach. Thank you all so much for watching. See you later. Yeah.